Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we're on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
If you love the Selling from the Heart podcast, then you know how much we value authentic leadership and building relationships with heart. But here's the thing. Great leadership doesn't stop with sales. It starts at the top with CEOs who inspire trust, create meaningful cultures, and lead with purpose.
That's why we're excited to invite you to get involved with the Culture from the Heart podcast. On Culture from the Heart, we celebrate CEOs who are transforming their companies by putting people first. And we're asking you to help us find them.
Do you work for an incredible leader? Know a CEO who builds culture from the heart? Nominate them to be interviewed on the show. Together, let's spotlight the leaders who make businesses thrive by leading authentically.
So head over to cultureFromTheHeart.com to submit your nomination today. Because when leadership starts with the heart, culture and success follow. Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
It's another fantastic day. Great seeing you. I've been fired up for our guest that's coming on this podcast for quite some time. Dear friend of ours, Darrell.
You're going to love hearing from our friend Carson Heady. You're going to learn how to be unbeatable. And it is going to be a fantastic conversation. So excited. By the way, if you're new to the Selling from the Heart podcast, we like to say this every few episodes. Welcome. You've joined a growing community of sales professionals that are dedicated to being genuine, being authentic, building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart, and it is a community of sales professionals and sales leaders from all around the world. And it's such a joy to be able to interact with so many of you on a regular basis.
You know, just before I bring Carson on, I just have to give a shout out to Trevor Spalding. And I've enjoyed getting to know Trevor just via LinkedIn messaging and all that. We're finally having our first conversation here pretty soon. It's all been via the keyboard. This time I'm looking you in the eye. Trevor, I appreciate you being part of the community.
Awesome. Yeah, Trevor. And all of you, we'd love to connect with you. Just reach out to Larry and myself on LinkedIn. Well, hey, today's guest, I think we could call Carson a force in the sales world. Carson Heady is the founder of Salesman on Fire, an internationally recognized sales leader, best-selling author, and widely known as the #1 social seller in tech. Over his career, Carson has generated more than $1 billion in revenue, proving that when you combine authentic storytelling, mindset mastery, and AI-powered strategy, you create an unbeatable formula for success. And speaking of unbeatable, Carson is the author of the powerful new book, Unbeatable. And in it, he shares the proven strategies and principles that have fueled his extraordinary career, helping sellers and leaders alike rise above the noise, outperform expectations, and win in today's competitive marketplace. Carson, welcome back to Selling from the Heart. It's great to have you here.
Guys, this is, it's always a treat. Thanks for having me. Awesome to see both of you. Thanks for all you do for the sales community.
Likewise. No, we appreciate you.
As we start, Carson, you've answered this question before. I'm looking forward to hearing your answer today. What does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
Oh, guys, it's amazing. I want to go back and even compare the answer that I give today to the past, because I feel like as we gain more experience, hopefully comes wisdom. But, here's my answer for today. Selling from the heart is all about embodying what matters most when it comes to selling. And that's adding value, and it's leaning in and being at the pulse of those that we serve. All of us serve, if we're lucky, we serve great customers. We serve extended teams. We serve partners, vendors, and everybody that we touch in that sphere. It's critical to invest in those relationships with everything we've got. And if you do that, if you do it the right way in this noble profession that we get to play in every day, you can't help but be successful.
Hey, I'm so glad you brought up to serve and you brought up the word noble, because sales is a very, very, very noble profession. If we come at it in the right mindset, right, Carson?
I remember having a conversation with Weinberg, our mutual friend, about just that very thing. I like to call us the noble knights of the selling profession. And, there's a lot of folks that do it the wrong way. But I mean, you look at any job, there's people that, don't carry the mantle with the respect that it deserves. I mean, selling is all about serving and adding value and helping solve problems and being a true partner and being honest, bringing credibility and earning trust. And, that's why I think we've got to be very intentional in how we go out and earn that relationship, earn the right to be a trusted advisor. And if you have that mentality and you don't show up just talking about products, and you go in thinking about how can I actually, with my unique set of resources, support and serve this person and help them fulfill their legacy, guess what? Magical things happen.
It seems like at that point, you kind of become unbeatable.
I see what you did there, Darrell.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey,
that was
congratulations, by the way, Carson, on this new book. It's such a gift. And your books you're bringing to all of us are written from the voice of a practitioner, and you're right in the mix on all of this. So thank you for writing this book, Unbeatable. Give us a flyover of what the vision was behind this book.
Yeah, thank you. Every time I write a book, I say I'm done writing books. I'm not going to do another one. They're so time consuming, and I, have a full-time day job with one of the greatest companies in the world and got a family and 3 kids. So it's challenging to find the time. But, when you love something like I love sales, you get inspired. And so I wrote a little book 15 years ago called Birth of a Salesman. And I created a fictional protagonist named Vincent Scott. And for whatever reason, I was inspired to revisit that character. And so this is the first time I've ever written a completely fictional novel. The last few of my books have been more playbook style. I just had a book last year come out, The Show Must Go On, and it's real $1 billion social selling playbook for the masses. Like I want my competitors to read it because I want the competition. But Unbeatable was all about this character and how through a career now of trials, tribulations, bureaucracy and corporate politics, this guy has just become unbeatable.
So you gotta walk us through this. So how does one navigate the bureaucracy and the corporate setting and everything that goes with this to become unbeatable? Something tells me that through Carson's wacky mind on some of this and storytelling, you're going to break this down for us. I know you are.
Yeah, very carefully is the answer, Larry. I think the younger, dumber version of me would have not quite understood or had the polish to know how to do that. I think as you get hopefully some wisdom in older age, as I'd like to think that I have, you start to understand what battles should be fought. You also understand the value and the importance of relationships. And, everybody wants to win, or at least I think they do, right? Most people want to win. Most people want to look good. They want people to care about what matters to them. And so, I've spent a lot of time really trying to understand and frankly obsess over how can I help lift up everybody else that I serve and support? And that's true of customers, but it's also true of the other people that you need. Corporate sales is a team sport. There's a lot of people that are, part of the extended team. I mean, I've worked in very large teams of 80 people that were all after, one large strategic relationship. And so if I'm focused on myself, that's not going to get anywhere. And if I show up asking for resources or money or funding or discounting, and I say, I need you to do this, they're not going to be beholden to doing squat for me. But if I can help them understand why this is advantageous for them, how it's going to help them look good, how it's going to be in line with their initiatives that I know that matter to them, or how it's going to correlate to their paycheck, guess what? That might help them get in the boat with me and row. So I have been very diligent about really understanding what matters to other people. And I often like to say internal selling, especially if you're working for an organization or a large organization, internal selling is just as important, if not maybe sometimes more so than selling to customers. Frankly, the work that I do with customers often is helping demystify the value that I know that I can bring, and helping transparently walk down a path of, hey, if you're able to arm me with what I need in order to go back to my leadership and sell them on unlocking the purse strings, that's what's going to be most advantageous. And so I've focused on radical transparency and really understanding, Larry, what makes others in my organization tick that I need on my team. And by doing that and obsessing over helping everybody else win, I've had the greatest successes of my career.
I think that's a really powerful perspective we don't talk about often enough, is the role of being a bridge really between the client or prospect and the company. And so it is selling back into the company and building those relationships. You can't thrive in a complex sales environment, and really in any sales environment, unless you've built a bridge with two ends on it. And I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on that and what Vincent experiences here in this book, because I'm sure this is part of the narrative of Vincent's journey.
Yeah, that's a great, astute observation, Darrell. Right. We have to be that conduit or that bridge. I work for a large organization, and sometimes it's very complex. There's a lot of different processes. There's a lot of different teams and organizations. And if you zoom out, if you take, kind of a balcony view approach of what you're trying to achieve, at the end of the day, my customers, like my team, my customers want to win. Far too often, we show up and we're like, hey, if I just start spouting off all the great things about my product or my service, magically it's going to open doors. Or, hey, I've got a big logo on my back, that's going to open doors. Not always. There's a lot of noise, especially now with AI. And I think because it's so easy to craft personalized messages now, it becomes all the more important to sell from the heart and actually be person to person, heart to heart. What matters to the customer? What matters to my organization? And if I can translate that effectively, I don't even have to be overly technically savvy. I work for one of the largest tech companies in the world, but I'm just an old sales guy from a small Midwestern town. I focus on relationships and investing in those relationships, demystifying what is available, what are the right resources, and honestly, mostly showing up very differently than most sellers do. Because there's what I like to call comfortable ways of mediocrity and comfortable ways of failing. It's really easy to fall into those. It's easy to be distracted by the noise. It's easy to be distracted by the widget or the data dashboard. You've got to be informed by all those things. But at the end of the day, you're the ones out there leaving your heart on the field and turning over every rock to help your customers win. And I think that's where you've got to remind yourself of your purview every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. You know what I like about this is I'm sitting here listening to what you say, Carson, and this is just popping into my head. And this is the first thing I started thinking about listening to this is you're like a bridge to create some alignment of values. So you want to make sure that your internal values inside the organization, right, that you work with closely aligns to those values of that customer that you want to bring into your family, because you know that if you do this, one word just rises to the surface, and that's harmony. And right. And there's nothing worse, right, than just bringing a customer in to bring a customer in. You want to make sure that you all have some alignment of values. Was that a fair assessment on what you were just saying?
When I think about some of the things that, give customers pause or trepidation in working with us, Larry, or anybody, us as sellers, it's often, hey, you only show up when you want our money, or, it's renewal time or annuity time, or you bring in the A squad to get the meeting or the demo, and then you bring in the B squad to do the work, or you're not there for the change management, or, your team sells it and then you disappear and you don't show up again. And so I think being the antithesis of that, you're spot on, Larry. Like, it isn't about just going out and hunting and getting the acquisition. The way you said that is poetry, bringing them into our family. And I'm very passionate about what I do. And I meticulously study what are the unique areas of value that I can bring to my customer. We have cloud solutions. Cloud's a commodity. I know that my customers can buy cloud or these solutions anywhere, but what is going to help them feel more confident and comfortable buying with me, for me, from me, from my organization? I think about great guys, Matt Dixon, Ted McKenna, the Jolt effect, and some of the study that they did around, where it's not about instilling that fear of missing out. It's about de-risking customer decisions to work with us. And we're in such a buyer-centric market right now because their need of us looks different than ever before because of all the data at their fingertips. So Larry, all the more reason why we have to lean in to the hard work of the sell, which is all about understanding our customers, being at the pulse of them, and understanding what is their risk. And if we have that mindset, instead of like go out, acquire, land the net new logo, but we think more about, hey, how can I really be a partner, help de-risk their decision, and help ensure that they understand that I'm on the other side of this rainbow too. That's ultimately how you win friends and influence. And that's really what it's all about.
You said something to me that I just want to go back to. You said something in that last segment. We have always, I think as sales professionals, said we want people to buy from us. But you said, I want people to buy with me. Ooh. I think there's something like so profound in that statement. Buying with, what does that look like?
We're going on a journey together, Darrell. And I think, so often for a lot of reasons, I don't think there's malice intended from a lot of sellers, but it depends on the sales culture that you have in your organization, or sometimes lack thereof. It can make or break you. And it can also influence a great deal how your sellers show up, how we show up as sellers. It's a journey that we're going on. It's a journey that we're ideally taking our customers on, as opposed to, I hate the connotation of selling to someone. The reality is I'm here, and based on my experience and knowledge and understanding, I believe that there is a fit. I understand, based on the research that I've done on your organization, the experience that I have working in your industry vertical, the other things that other of your colleagues are telling me, what your competition has told me already, what we're doing with others in your industry, I'm confident that there are things that we could do together that would be of value. What I propose, let's go into kind of an art of the possible discussion, or let's do a briefing and see if there are areas where, we might want to go on a journey together. Let's understand your key milestones. There has to be mutual accountability. And all the while I need to, be litmus testing, like, where does this person see risk? And, I look back, Darrell, at some of the most strategic, incredible deals that I've done in my career. And some of them have been 2-year deal cycles, multiple C-level changes. But what mattered is I had created such a groundswell of respect and accountability and influence that, when new executives would come on, they'd be like, you got to talk to Carson to understand like what's happening at a grand scale. Like it put us in a position of strength where we were at the table. I love talking to sellers who, they're like basically badged employees where they're camped out at the customer organization. Like they're a part of that family, just like Larry just mentioned, we want to bring them into our family. We want them to want to bring us into their family. And that's where it's selling with them, because, the reality is I always tell my customers, whatever you can arm me with what you're endeavoring to do and everything that's possible between our organizations over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, even if it doesn't happen, if I understand what's possible and I can go articulate that and sell that to my leadership so we can unlock resources and investments and things of that stature, I will be your evangelist. I've had a lot of companies tell me as well, because I've worked with every size of organization as a seller and as a sales leader, saying like, oh, I know I'm a small fish and this and that. You're not a small fish to me. In fact, I get paid to own this relationship between our organizations. It's not lost on me that you may invest significantly with us. I take that very seriously. And because of that, it's incumbent upon me to show up and make sure you're aware of what you're entitled to. But it's like, at the end of the day, I want nothing more than to see this relationship flourish. We have to have that mindset.
Oh, this is so good. And I think this is how you change the perception and the narrative in looking at this through the other person's lens. And there's some I just hoping that you can dive into. And I think part of becoming unbeatable is you got to become irreplaceable. And so what does irreplaceable look like in your world, Carson?
Actually, I wrote an article about this earlier in the year, and it was all about, I'm in a tech environment where, there are layoffs happening, and AI is coming in and replacing functions. And, I look back at my career, and I bet a lot of us could point at managers that we've had in our career that are not even as effective as ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT could give me better sales advice than some of the managers that I've had in my long career. So being irreplaceable is about what is that unique skill or superpower or tribal knowledge or strength that you bring to the table that you can double, nay, triple down on right now that can make everybody else around you better. And that includes our customers. That includes those that we, work with and for, everybody that we serve in kind of our sphere of influence. Right now, you can be irreplaceable by finding that unique superpower, but figuring out how can I leverage this, not only to be an outcome generator, but to maximize my impact. There's an element of this too that falls into personal brand. What I think is amazing now with social media and with as I think as connected as we all can be right now, is finding those ways to show up in ways that are meaningful and valuable to others. I do a lot of coaching and mentoring, and people tell me all the time, like, Carson, I wouldn't even know where to begin. I don't know what to post. I don't know what to talk about out there. I always tell them, like, somebody somewhere is experiencing something or getting ready to experience something that you've already experienced, or maybe that you're experiencing. Talking about that and helping somebody else feel connected or that they're not alone sometimes can be one of the greatest deposits that you can make into relationships, but also into your brand. And that's why I'm not afraid to really talk about any element of my journey. I've been very fortunate, very blessed. And, I think that when you think about becoming irreplaceable is maximizing the impact that you can have with your unique superpowers by lifting up everybody else around you. Be a multiplier.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you are a multiplier. Just the gift that you are to the sales profession and taking this and writing this down. I mean, how often do we get the opportunity to peel the lid back from a guy like Carson Heady's brain and heart experience? So this book, and for everyone listening, Unbeatable, links in the show notes. If you haven't already grabbed it, get it, buy the print copy, get the audio copy too, and highlight it and dog ear it and all of that. Take us on this journey. What can people expect on this journey as they get to know Vincent and his story here in Unbeatable?
Yeah. Picture yourself starting out. I think there's a lot of people that became accidental salespeople. They didn't necessarily intend to go into sales. That is Vincent's beginnings, right? He is a small town kid. He grew up in Minnesota and, wound up in a call center, and it was pretty cutthroat. Not a lot of people were successful, but he really leaned in because he had no choice, and saw some dizzying opportunities, come and go, had a lot of success, was kind of an initial juggernaut, but very quickly found himself butting up against competition, people that didn't play fair, unfair perceptions in corporate politics. Now, the character originated in 2010, and I won't give it away for anybody that didn't read Birth of a Salesman, but he kind of ran up against some challenges, and it left with a big cliffhanger. And not only does this revisit that story briefly, like the opening prelude is that story, but then it goes in depth of what the heck has this guy been doing for the last 15, 20 years? And so, basically it takes them from early days, starting out in the early 20s to midlife, and the ups and downs. What transpires over the course of a career. I think all of us, if we look at our career, whether we're starting out, whether we're early on, or middle of career, we've got things ahead of us that we want to achieve, or if we're looking back and the end of the career is closer than the beginning. We all have unique vantage points and perspectives, and Vincent Scott lives them all. And so hopefully people will find him to be very relatable wherever they are in the journey.
Oh, this is so good because, as I look back on my career, there's been roller coasters and twists and turns and all of that. But there's one thing that always, and I'm just going to steal the title of the book. There's always one thing that I always wanted to become, and that was unbeatable. And I think it's the more, especially in today's day and age, I'll just leave everyone with this to think about, is you got to constantly be working on yourself. And that's something I know because Carson's a dear friend of ours here at Selling from the Heart. Is he's in a highly competitive industry as well, but he's constantly working on himself and his craft to become better, even at the midpoint of Carson's career. So I applaud you for this.
Hey, I bless you, Larry, for calling it the midpoint of my career. When I think about the definition of unbeatable in this game, and selling and living with heart. I think about another guy with a lot of heart, and that was Rocky Balboa. I always go back to the Rocky series, and I think about this scene in Rocky 1 when Rocky is knocked down, and he just wants to go the distance with the champion of the world. And even his trainer is telling him, stay on the mat. And the guy gets up against all odds, and he eventually goes on to, another movie later to become the champion of the world. But the point is, we have a decision. We have choices every single day. We have choices to want to level up. What got you here is not going to get you to the next level. We want to continue to grow and sharpen our axe and hone our craft and, go out and meet people that are going to up level us. And, we have choices every day too of what are you going to do when you get that unfair quota, or when your role is murky, or when your colleagues are being laid off and you're terrified. What are you going to do? You've got to still put one foot in front of the next and do the next right thing as best as you can. And that is what being unbeatable is about, that nothing can keep you on the mat. And somehow, Vincent Scott has unlocked the secret, and I'll let you read for yourself what that is.
Well, and Carson Heady has unlocked this secret as well. And it's such a pleasure hanging out with you again today. I know our folks are asking the question, how can I get more Carson Heady in my life? So what would you say to answer that one?
There's not a lot of people that want to know that. Hopefully there's a lot of them. I'm always on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn.
You do.
This is Microsoft owns them, so this isn't an endorsement of LinkedIn, but I do love LinkedIn. Always out there. Twitter. All my books are on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I also have a blog at carsonvheady.com.
Yeah. Awesome. Carson, what a pleasure. Always fun hanging out. Thank you for investing in us today. Thank you for being a champion inside the sales world. And thank you for selling from the heart. You're a true inspiration.
I got you guys. I love you guys.
Love you too. We appreciate you.
Love it. Always a good time hanging out with Carson Heady. I just great stuff here. And you know what I love about anytime I read anything from Carson, or we have the privilege of talking with him here today, it comes from hardcore, real world experience deep in the trenches, and with a massive heart and passion. So I say anything you can get your hands on that Carson Heady has touched is going to absolutely help you drive your career forward in sales. So what a joy to be able to talk with him today.
Absolutely. And if there's anything that you take away from this conversation today, if you're in the beginning part, midpoint, latter part of your career, it doesn't matter. This is all going to play out. You must be willing to invest in yourself. Why am I saying this? This marketplace is dynamically changing. Regardless of what marketplace you're in, it's changing everywhere. If you want to become unbeatable and irreplaceable, you got to invest in your growth, both personally and professionally. So I just wanted to put a highlighter on this great conversation we have with Carson.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you've made it this far in the episode, you are investing in your personal growth and your growth and success in sales. We appreciate you. We appreciate you liking the show, sharing it, leaving reviews. All those things are helping us build this movement of authenticity and trust right here in this sales profession we all love. So thank you for joining us. We've got great guests coming up. We'll see you next week. Until then, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, become unbeatable, and most of all,
Self from the heart.